Whereas every army is still trained in how to, if they march in time with each other, but that in a way respond to authority and already turn down their own morale. This experiment, you were told to come to study and exercise, walk up and down the car park with these four other people, and just spend 10 minutes walking up the ground, and you could hear them going like shoots, so they all escaped. And they
okay, not to masculinize it, you know how people say like they go from boy to man and like they get like that first hair on their chest? I feel like I just had that moment as like a neuroscientist. Like I feel like I'm like, wow, now I feel like a real neuroscientist for sure. I'm gonna explain what I basically decided. So basically all morning I was reading papers on okay, let me show you actually from yesterday. This is what I was asking, no, the day before yesterday, when I was at that coffee shop in my last video. I was trying to understand because I read this paper. I'm going to try to find it to show you. Okay, this was a picture. The paper is Neuromodulatory Systems and Memory Storage Role of the Amygdala, that I need to read again thoroughly. It's a bit on, well, it's from 1993, which isn't that bad, but this was the one that got me down this route. And it had this image here because I thought like, okay, well, if the amygdala makes you afraid or like triggers arousal, then if the amygdala is like going like activated, then that must make acetylcholine go up, right? That was my thinking. I found this paper and I had to read around and this paper, and basically it said that I think it was something like the amygdala made this neuromodulator go up that I always forget the name because it's kind of long and my memory's running low by the time I'm like at this point in the project. And then that basically made it so that acetylcholine went up. It explains something along those lines in this paper. So I had that in the back of my mind. Again, I should read it again. So suggests that these neuromodulatory systems influence memory storage at other brain sites through an NE-mediated release of acetylcholine. So I was like, okay, that's how it works, right? So that's why I was asking this to ChatGPT like a few days ago. Unfortunately, ChatGPT was not into it. I said, so amygdala makes NE release and that makes ACH release. So it's like, it's not fully accurate. And it was basically telling me, it was like, that's not like quite right. And it gave me this explanation. And then I asked why, like, this is what was funny, is that it told me it was, where did it say it? The overall idea is directionally right, but mechanistically sloppy. And I was like, okay, it was kind of rude. I read that in that paper. That's why I said it. Like, I was like, I thought I read that somewhere. But it was, ChatGPT was not totally off. Like, it wasn't like 100%. Like, it isn't this simple. And there's a lot to it. So it was right. But I was just like, computer, how dare you call me sloppy? I am your overlord. I am a human. Do not speak to me that way. But no, but I was grateful because it explained it to me. But yeah, and then I was reading papers all morning on NE because then yesterday I read in another paper. I've been reading in class, like just reading papers. And I read this other one, I'll show you. This paper, and it was talking about how sensitivity goes up in the amygdala after stress, to the point that things like it's more sensitive to salient. So anything that's kind of like novel, it's more alert to it, even if that novel thing isn't bad after an acute stressor. So they showed these people these faces, these like scary faces, and then they had a control group that they showed just not, just completely normal faces. And the group that was shown these like kind of scary faces or something, basically afterwards they were more alert to not just scary faces, but any type of face, in a way that the other group wasn't. So the brain was just more kind of up there and alert. And then at the very end, it said here that a potential driving force of the stress effects might be found in elevated activity of this locus coeruleus, I don't know how to say this, norepinephrine system, that's NE that I'm looking at. That's what I was reading about, and that's what I was like, okay, so I wasn't totally off. So it says, given that the amygdala receives direct NE innervation from the LC, and NE levels in amygdala rise in response to stressful stimuli, one might postulate that moderately elevated baseline levels of NE in the stress group drive the observed high phasic amygdala responses. So I was like, okay, these are connected, so that is right. And then I was just thinking to that paper, and I was like, but I know this is all like, it's all interconnected somehow. But I was like, well, then I was confused, and I was like, okay, so the AC and the NE, I mean, the amygdala and the NE do go together. And this thing, this locus coeruleus thing, Coeruleus? I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. There's been a lot of words to learn how to pronounce, but I'll learn it after. But basically, yeah, so I was just reading all morning, and I was trying to look up papers. Like, I was looking up paper after paper. I don't know if you can see up here. These are old ones from, like, the other day. Yeah, you can see. I was just, like, skimming and just, like, I couldn't find anything that had to do with acetylcholine at all. Even, like, just, like, why does NE make the acetylcholine go up? And there didn't seem to be that many papers giving, like, a direct correlation. So that's when I did go back to ChatGPT and I asked more questions, because I was like, okay, what I did first is I made a little list, and I was like, this is what's happening. I was like, so there is the amygdala, NE is going up. This is my plan for my glow up, like my massive glow up after my project. Just FYI, that's why that's there, which is really embarrassing, but yeah. Anyways, so the amygdala makes the NE go up. And then the hippocampus, the ACH is going up. So I was like, that's probably what needs to be my model. But I was like, they're so separate. And I was like, okay, so let's figure out, like, I asked, so the amygdala triggers NE release, then what is causing hippocampal ACH release? And that was important. So there's no single cause. It emerges from this and that, with NE and the amygdala acting as modulators, not drivers. So the immediate source of hippocampal acetylcholine is in this place, the medial septum, where there's septohippocampal cholinergic neurons. And it was talking about that this state correlates strongly with increased septal firing and all these different things. So this thing, actually, this is good for me to see. Later I'm going to anchor in, because then I think this is probably, like, all key stuff for my model. And I just feel like it's coming together a lot more. But basically, this thing, which makes NE go up, or that where NE comes from, that I think, it's connected to this thing. And this thing has these things, which makes the acetylcholine go up. Yeah, but basically then I was just looking at this, and it was like, role of this NE, what it actually does. And what it does is that it acts on these receptors on septocholinergic neurons and makes them more excitable. So it makes these neurons more likely to fire in response to ongoing state demands. It doesn't command ACH to release. Basically, it, like, sets it up. It's kind of like overexciting them and being like, okay, you might do it, and then, like, then the acetylcholine goes up. So then I started copy pasting and started making connections, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna ask right now to ChatGPT if I'm understanding it right. It's probably gonna insult me again, but that's okay, because then we can know. But basically, when hippocampal actually spikes, so what I was thinking is basically the amygdala goes off, it triggers that NE. The NE gets the cholinergic system ready to fire up, probably more likely to fire up, and then because of that, it's more likely to go up higher in response to other things. So it's like making the system more sensitive to acetylcholine going up, if that makes sense. So even though this doesn't make acetylcholine go up, it makes it more likely to go up, and because of that, then the arousal is, like, just up and up if you're, like, post-stress. That's my theory. I don't know if I'm ready to be humbled on camera. Like, I'm kind of riding this high right now, so I don't know if I really want to ask ChatGPT. Like, let's just bite the bullet so I can go into my next class. I actually was listening for most of my class. I was in my social psychology class. It was very interesting. But then at the very end, I got, like, that wave of inspiration. I think I just needed to let the information soak a bit. Okay, let's see. It's gonna correct me. So when the amygdala goes up and it's taking all the things that I basically, like, assumed, and it's gonna, not all amygdala activation contribute. Okay, so we're gonna, like, I'm just gonna tear ChatGPT apart. So let's, like, just mutually, like, now we're beefing. Now I'm gonna I'm gonna tear you apart, ChatGPT, because you don't even know my project. Amygdala activation can increase LC firing. I'm gonna assume that if it's a stressful situation, that's probably happening. That's something to confirm. Like, this is, like, the process. It's like, okay, now we're gonna go back to read papers, and we're gonna see what we can learn from this point on. LC-NE can increase excitability, but I guess not always. More responsive, not obligatorily active. my thinking is that trauma probably is going to do this, though. I think that trauma is going to do this. Like, not all, but I think that will. And then amygdala-driven salience, this is a refined version, can increase this, which biases this towards increased excitability. So it's basically saying yeah, but like not always, okay? In stress, acetylcholine is going up as a result of increased septal neuron excitability. It's saying in acute stress, that's usually true. It's saying that in chronic or intense stress, this can actually not happen. I don't know what to think about that yet. I've been a little bit like back and forth because I am interested in chronic stress, but at the same time, like, that's not what my paper is about. And like, I do want this to, my idea to be relevant at some point in time in a chronic stress background, because I'm interested in stuff like structural dissociation. But if it doesn't work right now, it doesn't matter. I just need to get my project done. So yeah. And also, people can get dissociative amnesia with like a single event that's just scary. It's not always like, you know what I mean? There's probably other stuff going on in chronic stress. So, oh well. But that's not what my paper is about anyway, so it doesn't really matter for now. So septal neurons are increasing signal to signal and signal to noise and responsiveness to units. Well, it said that, so if it told me I'm wrong, that's on ChatGPT, but it said that's solid. So I need to learn more about septal neurons. I feel like one of the best things about ChatGPT through this whole project is that this is one of the best things that it can do for me sometimes is, again, you do have to read, because if you don't read yourself, you will get thrown off base. Because, for example, like, I was looking at what ChatGPT said at first, even though I read that in the paper, and I was like, oh, it's sloppy, so it must not be right, or maybe it's not worth following. And then I had the luck of reading it again in another paper. So sometimes you do want to make sure that you're checking in. Like, it's not the end all be all. What it's good at is sometimes it helps me like check me a bit, and then that inspires me to go read more papers. So it's a good way to like tell it back what you learned. This is how I learned so much over such a long period of such a short period of time. Like, I learn from papers, I learn from just learning information, ingesting information. I write myself in my own words what I think is happening, and I tell ChatGPT, does it work like this? And what it'll do is like, okay, yeah, you are right, or yeah, you're mostly right, but this is a little bit off, and etc. And then I feel like that's something it's really good at. It's kind of grading my learning a little bit, and I think that's been a really, really useful method for learning in general. But putting it in my own words first, you get me? Okay, it's saying it's just one of many, but I can't put everything in there anyways, so that's okay. So the ACH is going up after in a more sensitive way. Okay. And because these neuromodulators are going up from increased sensitivity, consolidation is less likely over a period of time. It's saying it's incorrect. That this part is my theory. And the reason that I think this, it's not, I don't think it's, it's not fully, okay. So your memories, I think, would be better encoded. But the thing is that it's disrupting you from entering a consolidation phase because you are more likely to be in an encoding phase. That's my thinking. So that's something I have to make clear. It's not that the memories won't be very consolidated. That's my whole theory, is that the U-shaped theory of arousal. But this is the thing, is that it's probably making it very like these very angled and targeted memories that are more like trauma focused. You know, that's one situation where it's like you got to take your own expertise into account sometimes. And it's like, I have been reading that around, and I have reasons for having that theory. So I'm not going to 100% like take you got to take ChatGPT with a grain of salt, and I know why I'm saying that, so I'm going to ignore that, but just make sure that it sounds fine. Like, make sure that I know why I'm making that statement. So I think that's pretty fine. And then I guess I can see if I show it in my my model. I don't know if that's everything, but I think that's like a lot, and it just sounds more legitimate. Like, I think it just sounds more neuroscience-y and more professional and more everything, and there's like a clear mechanism now. I just gotta let it sit, like let it soak. I need to find papers that are gonna explain everything that I'm talking about, because you just gotta make sure, you know. But I think that's like a pretty good theory right now. of why your brain would be more sensitive to arousal and why that might be impairing consolidation. So yeah.
All right, I'm home. I ended up going back home a little bit early just because I was really like over caffeinated and then very frazzled by the shift and just wanting to integrate it. I started thinking about what parts of this are going to be in my computational model, which I'm going to do more reading for, but I'll show you what I did on the way home. First, let me show you the glow up plan. It's not that interesting just because it's here. I just feel like, yeah, I'm basically just deciding to like relax more. That's it. That's the only thing I need, honestly, I think. And then I'll take it from there. But I stress a lot, and I feel like the stress messes everything else up. So, pretty much, I started copy pasting things from this that I thought needed to be here. I've just been trying to think about feasibility and what's feasible and what's within maybe another person's capacity. But already I think this conversation with my supervisor will be even more productive because I have really specific things that I want to implement versus like it's just basically gonna go like this. Now I have like, okay, I'll make these neurons and these things and these things. This isn't like the full plan yet. This is part. This whole thing is like arousal, essentially. Like how I'm building arousal. Maybe. That's gonna impact LTP, whether early or late LTP is getting produced. I keep going back and forth on like, is that still like worth including? I would like it to be in there, but because I feel like that's a very like arousal mediated, I don't know, part of memory. But we'll see if it's too complex or if it takes away from what I'm doing. I don't want it to be overly complex though. Like I don't need to have like a lot of different things. I don't need to have like usually if something else has like a little bit of early LTP and the other thing is late, like I don't know, there's all these little rules with it. I don't know. I don't need the most complex version. I just want early LTP and late LTP. There's other kind of stress things that are happening. So high stress should impair. Actually, you know what? All this LTP is actually happening within the CA1 anyways. So this is all stuff happening in the CA1. Would be early or late LTP. And stress, like high stress would be LTP is reduced. My guess is that there will be less things kind of consolidated, but the most arousing things will be more consolidated. I feel like that already just looks a bit neater. I need to back all this up with papers, but this is what I think is going to happen. It's already a good shift. I don't think I need the CA3 if we're being honest. I think I just need the CA1. Is recurrent excitation in the CA3? I do need it. I do need it. I lied. Because that's where the encoding is going to happen. So I do need it. I forgot about that. Oh, I think that'll make it so much easier. I think I don't need to worry about the content. I think that what I actually should worry about is I don't know actually. That's actually a complex question. Should I be just looking at if LTP was facilitated and then if it was like more like early, late LTP? Maybe that'll make it easier. That's a question for my supervisor because there's not going to be it's kind of hard because it's like I don't know if like how much information would I really get from just having like location? I mean, I might have it still, but it's like it's not really the focus, like fragmentation. You know what I mean? Yeah, we'll see how that goes, but I still need content, but maybe it's not really about the content, but the type of LTP that was produced. I think this is already like so much better. I'll keep this video really short, I think, because the last two were like so long. I don't even know how I got that long-winded, but there is gonna be probably content, but maybe the content is not not the important part per se. Like I'm not looking to see because I was gonna try what I envisioned before was basically to see like what do the memories look like, but that's a bit more complex and it's hard because rats are not. I mean, they probably are like encoding all sorts of different things that we just don't know, but it's hard because it's not like a human where like even right now like there's a lot going on. There's like the emotional process of me doing this project, like my cat's here. I have like the spatial part, the room, like all these different elements to encode and consolidate. But it's hard to like do that in a model so far. So I don't think that I need to really focus on like what's actually getting consolidated to the same degree and more about I think like what kind of LTP is getting facilitated. But arousal and encoding are going to be like a very similar kind of like they're like kind of one as well. This whole thing has been so wild. um I'm just like, it's been so much of just been so much of me. And it kind of scares me because I just feel like the universe or whatever entrusted me with this massive responsibility. And I don't really feel good enough, but it's like I just keep being like the conditions of this whole project have just been like me the whole way through, you know? It's been so much of me. And I think that, yeah, I don't know, it's kind of scary sometimes. Like, it's definitely been an amazing learning experience to be reliant on my own problem solving skills. I think that's really sharpened my intuition for this and everything. So that I've been grateful for. But because sometimes I think a big responsibility was actually probably like I think the pressure was a good learning tool for me, and it really brought out I think some of my deeper problem solving skills that I didn't really know that I had, and I think that was good for me because sometimes that's just been the story of my life, if we're being honest. But it's like sometimes I think if you're always reliant on people that you see as more experienced than you to tell you how to go through the world, it's like there's always that energy to fall back on. And I think that in a lot of places I didn't have energy to the same, like, you know what I mean? It wasn't, I had to do a lot of problem solving to get through my own life. And I think that was taught me a lot about the world and taught me a lot about learning and about this process and everything. I think that actually, like, this project has been such an extension of me processing this experience. And when it came to this experience, like, I've mentioned in other videos, but I didn't feel like I had very strong guidance because people in my life were not psychologists, and I think they didn't fully always have the right tools to understand my needs. And then I think even in psychology, like a psychology, like I had great therapists and stuff, but I think it was just a lot of confusion on my end. And then there was also like, this is kind of a confusing gap and all this stuff. So it was a lot of me just kind of being like, okay, you got to figure it out on the fly. How are you going to get through this? What do you need to hear? What do you need? What do you wish someone was telling you? What do you wish that you had? All these different questions that I think I navigated kind of blind, and that really brought out my problem solving skills by a lot. So, yeah, I think it just took a lot of grit to get through this, but I think that that grit, like, not the project, the experience, and I think that that grit really translated into my relationship to this project as well, which is good. But anyways, yeah, I'm really tired actually, but what I wanted to do was I just wanted to start I'm actually going to keep this video like really short, like really short. I just for some reason really wanted to do that. I don't feel like making this a long video, but this would be like a transitional video because I think I really feel like my energy for this video, like with this project, is now in like a very different space. And I want to take some time to read and everything. And I don't really feel like talking right now. Like I think I'm just going to enter like hopefully really deep focus with this over the next few days. I mean, I'll definitely make another one, but I don't know. I just felt like this one was like a standalone transitional video. I have many questions now. I need to read. This is going to come from reading about NE. Maybe I should talk about just neuromodulators, and maybe this is a good place to talk about this. I need to kind of rework like the order of this a little bit. And then we have arousal. It's hard because there's a lot of different ways I could organize this. I feel like now I'm suddenly writing one of those really dense papers that I will read and be like, what's wrong with these people? Why do they have so much information? Not actually, but like in a personal way of like, oh man, like I can't read not I can't read this, but it's like there's so much to cover. And I feel like now I'm writing one of those, one of those real like one of those real like technical kind of papers that I'm like, how do these people know all this stuff? And it's like now my paper is getting to that point, which is kind of funny. This is a general section I need to add. Basically, biological mechanisms used for fear detection get activated after stress. Activation of the amygdala. Okay, wait, actually, I might talk about this first. People who saw these stress papers, I mean, these stress faces were more sensitive to salience of any type of valence, so valence. I never know how to pronounce things. Positive or negative, or like no matter whether it was positive or negative, they were still more sensitive to that. And then similarly, in this inescapable stress study, acetylcholine went up again after the stressor, but was demonstrated to be separate from the HPA, but corticosterone did not go up. This whole thing is messy, but it's going to get there. This implies that arousal has a separate function than the HPA axis. They'll both play a role. Again, very messy section right now. But the fact that the ACH was up does signify that the rats were aroused. It could be that the rats were more sensitive to salience for some time after the inescapable stress and were thus more sensitive to an acetylcholine increase after the experience, even if the salience was not related to a negative or stressful experience. And then that's where I might talk about this. The researchers in that phase paper said this had to do with amygdala and the NE. And then what I want to do here, this is our task, is back up their sort of instinct. Back up their hunch, I guess. And then I will talk about this whole thing. So activation of the amygdala, this isn't maybe the right word, I don't know, innervates the LC, which releases NE. NE increases the firing potential of septal neuron excitability. And then I will say that in stress, the ACH could be going up because I need to back this. As a result of the increased septal neuron excitability, and the septal neurons are increasing signal to noise and responsiveness to inputs. Amygdala in activation in some, so basically thus, this is like my theory or something. Amygdala activation in some cases increases the sensitivity of acetylcholine release, like the sensitivity to acetylcholine release. I think I might make another section, so because I think that this is a good place to stop with this section. And then I could do one last section here where I talk about arousal in a different context, and LTP. And then I'll talk about all this here, and synaptic tagging, late LTP, early LTP. And then finally in this section, I'll probably lay out my theory one more time. Here's where we're gonna like lay out the full theory, like put it all together. This is gonna be like a full-blown like theory of arousal sort of thing. That's gonna talk about early and late LTP and how like arousal levels determine what does get consolidated, how soon it gets consolidated post-trauma, and then the sort of quality. Something I've been really nervous about is like I was having this chat with myself on the way home that like nobody on earth, like I keep getting nervous that like, oh well, you don't know this and you don't know that, and like it doesn't account for everything in the world. But no one paper can account for everything in the world. Like obviously everybody is just making like a tiny step forward, like make like one footstep, and then other people, that's the cool thing about science, is other people go in and they fill in the gaps and they get interested in this or that, right? So it's like I don't need it to solve every problem. I don't need to have all the answers. I just need to have one piece of the answer. And this is one piece of the answer. Doesn't mean that it's going to cover everything, but it does cover this one piece. And that's already like a bit more, you get me? So, yeah, I think I've just been feeling like, well, you could say it doesn't really solve this, or you know what I mean? Where it's like, it doesn't matter that much. Like, I need to just keep like chugging along. This is going to get much shorter probably because a lot of this is just like random information, and I think I want to cover this in a paragraph or a few sentences. And then this is going to be about LTP, and then this is going to be about neuromodulation. I guess the amygdala and neuromodulators work together to facilitate arousal. And then after that, arousal structures the process of memory formation and consolidation through the LTP. There's like a lot here, so yeah, I'm happy about that. I still have questions, but I just need to take it one step at a time because I think I'm getting closer. And I think I'm just feeling like, oh, there's too much because the paper is too long. I actually need to shorten the paper and explain things in less sentences and give less information because it is getting pretty long and it's longer. I'm gonna make a copy of this at first, before I like cut it down because I might want all of this information for my empirical project that's due in August. Like, I don't know, I might want to make it long anyways. Depending on, I don't know how long the results and everything is going to be, discussion section, but I don't know when I publish it because I started this project before it was an empirical project, so it's my baby. It's like my thing, and I do want to publish it. Was the initial goal of the whole thing. It wasn't like meant to be a school project in the first place, but I'm happy that it is. It like I want it to. I don't know necessarily need it to be like 15,000 words long. It might still be. I don't know, but so I'm gonna make like a copy so then I have all the words if I want them, and then I'm gonna cut down significantly. Yeah, so basically that's everything. I don't know why my camera was off, but I'm gonna keep this video just this length because knowing me, this will probably still somehow be an hour long. And I just think I got good information and let's wrap it up, right? I need to learn to yap less. All right, that's it for now. Let's see how this goes.